Hello, everyone. How are you today? Welcome to the fourth Monday Coffee with the Councilors. We had a holiday last Monday, so our usual third Monday was pushed to fourth. And don't forget that next month, we also will be pushed to the fourth Monday as well, because we have another holiday on the third Monday. So.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, as you can tell, we've got some other people with us today. We have Bruce is just out. He'll be coming back in. And we have Rick, who is our emergency manager. And we have Mark Reckman, our fire chief. I should know this. So if you are interested at all in knowing how our tsunami alert went last week, or if you have other questions about emergency management or the fire district, be sure and pose those questions to them. So let's get started. I'm going to go around the screen and ask what you're interested in talking about, and then we'll come back and approach those questions one by one. So we have Trevor Mount is on. It looks like he's also on with us. Trevor is with the Public Works Department. So we have all kinds of representation today from the city. So I'll go first. Deb Attia, what would you like to talk about today?
I was up at Southwind the other day with the CERT teams and on the day of the tsunami, and I just had some questions about it. That's it.
About Southwind or about the tsunami?
Well, kind of both, I guess.
Okay.
They go together.
Sometimes they do, yeah. All right, I have Bob.
No, I'm just listening today, Robin.
Okay. And let's see who else. Lisa Kerr.
I'm pretty much just listening and, may have a question as things go along.
Okay. We have a lot of listeners today. Ginny, what would you be interested in talking about today?
Well, I missed the very beginning, so I'm not sure what everybody else said. I think we're going to hear from Rick Hudson maybe about the tsunami experience. And I guess I'm like Lisa, I'll chime in if I have anything to add.
Okay, that sounds great. Les, it's good to hear from you. How was your trip?
We are driving home for a doctor's appointment, which is a long ways here in Texas. And we're just, I could take a picture right now. Y'all die what it looks like. It's completely flat. So we're just here trying to catch up and stay plugged in before we get back up there.
So we've gone beyond Oregon. We are now broadcasting beyond Oregon, huh? That's great. And so anything that you have any burning questions about?
No, we've just been trying to catch the council meetings and keep up, but it's way past our bedtime when they start. So
Really true.
we're just gonna have to play catch up when we get back about that. But I am interested to hear more about the tsunami event. We got woke up at 4 a.m. with an alert from Tillamook County.
Oh boy.
So, yeah, we were aware. All right, thanks.
All right, well, Dale Mosby, do you have anything you'd like to talk about?
Well, not really. I just was going to drink some coffee, and I'm working on doing some paperwork here, and thought I'd just listen in. So that's about it.
Okay. We're going to have a very quiet group today.
No, we won't.
All right. And speaking of which, Greg, is there anything you'd like to talk about?
Yeah.
Not specifically. I'm just kind of listening in like everybody else. Would be curious. I heard in the council meeting last week the update on the food tax and so forth. So I don't think there's anything new, but if I assume Bruce is there, I think I see him. If there's anything that the city's working on, is it on pause or is it still going forward? Kind of comments, I guess, is what I'm interested in.
Okay. Nancy, welcome. Anything you'd like to talk about today?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Okay. Well, I too would like to hear some follow-up on the tsunami. And I know we've already talked with Rick Hudson a little bit about how things will change in the future, but I'm curious to know more about that. And I don't know if the lot size issue will come up again, but I'm always interested in hearing what's going on there. And as we get into the meeting, something always comes to mind that I didn't know I wanted to ask about. So that's all.
What was the second thing that you said? I thought I heard lopside. What was
Lot.
the lot size?
Building lots and square footage.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It is
Can I
kind of
make
lopsided.
an announcement? Tim Ramey's having a meeting by Zoom at 6 p.m. on Wednesday night. If anybody wants to listen to that, there's several people that are going to talk about it. I thought I'd listen in.
Okay, Rick, is there anything you'd like to talk about? Welcome.
Hi, yes, good morning. I'm moving around the kitchen, so I won't put my picture up here until I'm settled. I am curious to know about the legal standing in the or the legal issues in the litigation over the tax.
Okay.
And particularly whether or not the city is going to argue a question of standing, which I think would be an important question to raise.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think I'll just listen and hear what comes up.
And Steve Waite, welcome. This is the first time you've been on, I think, joining us. Do you have anything you'd like to talk about? Apparently not.
Unmute, Steve.
Well, I have an active neighborhood. These are my two neighbors.
Yeah, Steve.
Steve, you need to unmute.
Unmute yourself there.
Well, we'll move on to
I
Jan.
could holler across the alley here, but you know.
I'll move on to Jan and maybe Steve will unmute by that time. Jan, is there anything you'd like to talk about?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, hi, good morning. I wanted to just hear more about the whale park changes. I know that Trevor, he spoke with the Parks Committee on Thursday last week about the project, but there wasn't much said about protecting the trees when that project goes forward. So I wanted to put in a word for the trees. They are iconic there, and we just want to make sure that when the design process is going through, that the trees are protected.
Okay, we will. That's an interesting question. We haven't talked about that. Diane, hi, how are you? Is there anything you're interested in talking about?
Your audio is not connected yet.
Oh, your audio is not connected. We'll get back to you. How about Steve? Steve, do you have anything you want to talk about?
Hello. Thank you for welcoming me. And yes, this is my first time with Coffee with the Councilors. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and just kind of listen in. I don't really have anything I want to discuss today. I will put a second in for protecting the trees. I think that's very important for Cannon Beach, for everything else. But, you know, oftentimes I'll wake up to the sound of big chainsaws, and that I'm always wondering what's going on there. So thank you very much. I think I'll just sit back and listen, and if I have comment, I'll raise my hand. Thank you.
Okay, that sounds great. Diane, is there anything you'd like to talk about?
Unmute.
Yeah, unmute yourself. There you go.
I'd like to comment about the beautiful job the city has done in preparing access to the beach on 5th Street.
Okay. All right, well, we'll get that into that in a moment then. Thank you for the compliment so far. All right, I think we are all together. I think I've done all of the, if I haven't asked you what you'd like to talk about, please raise your hand. I think the most popular topic right now is the tsunami alert. Rick, you are on. You are Mr. Popular today.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is like a town hall meeting almost. I like it. My name is Rick Hudson. I'm the city's emergency manager. I got notes from what you guys talked about, but I'd like to start off with a lot of people have been asking me since we've been talking about tsunami sirens over the past month. Did Chief Reckon and myself plan the tsunami event? The answer is we did not plan the tsunami event to highlight the needs of that system, but it's a great conversation for us to continue with. Let's talk about Southwind real quick before I get into the whole event. Southwind is a very, really important area to the city of Cannon Beach. It's our largest cache site, city survival cache site. That's where our Tango cache site is. And that's a very important geographical location because not only its elevation, but it's sizable. It's the place that we can develop the most goods and services there. And they had a drill plan that day. The DART team had a drill plan that day along with the Sunset Empire Radio Club. They were all out there doing work on the site when the tsunami hit. So it shows you that we're always developing and working that system, but that Southwind site at we call it the Tango cache site near Tullabana. And that's a good place to visit. And you guys probably see it on the freeway when you're driving by that location.
Can you explain what a cache site is?
Yeah, cache site, basically we have 3 cache sites in the city, and the cache sites are basically where we keep our survival equipment in case of a major catastrophic event. And we have 3 of them in the city. One is at Tango, like I explained, in the south area. In the Midtown, there's one on the east side of the freeway, of course, and that's called Echo. It's the top of Elk Creek. And in the north area, there's one off of Old Cannon Beach Road, and it's called Oscar. The importance of those cache sites are critical to not only our resiliency and survivability, but they're also important that they are geographically located in certain spots because the type of natural disasters that can impact our area will create small islands in our city. So some people to just put all those resources into one location is challenging. So it's best to spread those things out throughout those areas. That's a little bit about our cache sites. Inside the cache sites, we also have not only city equipment, but survival equipment, but we also have the barrel program where citizens have put their 55 or 30 gallon barrels with their own equipment in there, and we warehouse them all year round. And that's a place for them to put stuff outside of the inundation zone.
Can people still buy into that?
You can. If you get your own barrels, if you look at the emergency management website, you can get your hands on the barrel, and it just needs to be a plastic barrel, either 50 gallons or 35 gallons. I think that's the sizes, 55 and 30, excuse me. And they need to just have a locking lid on them. And then there's stuff on our website that can tell you what to put in there. And then we can put those and store those in the cache sites for you.
Rick, do we have a standard for the barrel that we want to use?
Yeah, it's a plastic barrel and it has to have a plastic locking lid on it.
And the barrels are usually last time we did this, the barrels were available from the city. Is that right?
That's a long time ago. So the city used to purchase those barrels, which became a very expensive warehousing issue. And it's hard to get them in mass quantities. It is very challenging. And so we don't supply those anymore, but they're easy. You can even order them on Amazon. You can get them shipped to you, but it's hard to get them in mass quantities. So that's something and they're even a little bit more challenging now. But so if you're interested in getting a barrel, I would look into it now and order one of those.
Okay, great.
And there's a fee for that, a yearly fee for that.
Yes, there's a fee, an annual fee. It's $55 a year to store the barrel. If it's a 55 gallon, it's a $30 a year for 30 gallon, $5 a year for a 5 gallon bucket. So let's talk about the tsunami. Does anybody else have a question about the cache sites? Okay.
I have a question about the Southwind. Is it just the front area there that is usable? Because we drove up that road and it didn't look like how many acres is it?
I don't know the geographic size of the Southwind.
55 acres.
Okay.
And how much is really usable? Because it looks like that could be a helicopter pad right there, right? Is that true?
Right in front is a helicopter pad. The area that goes up the hill in the back is not something that I have explored to use for emergency management.
Okay, so you're just talking about that front area.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's the Tango cache site.
Okay,
And then Southwind is the entire 55-acre parcel.
that's not very usable, right? Because it didn't look very usable.
I mean, it depends what you're using it for.
Yeah.
No, so that if something was to happen up there, there would clearly have to be some clearing and access provided, that sort of thing. But right now, it is pretty much in a wild state.
Very, yep. Okay.
So let's talk about the tsunami a little bit, because I know we've got a lot of questions to get through. So that tsunami, that earthquake, or excuse me, that volcano that happened right before 5 a.m. our time, when that happened, that's kind of a rare event to create a tsunami. Only 15% of all tsunamis are created by a volcanic activity. The one thing that's also interesting about that is not all notifications are sent out with that, except for the NOAA notification that went out and the tsunami alert. So some people were notified earlier than others, depends what you were signed up for. And people talk about Tillamook County and other areas, their dispatch center sends out those notifications to anybody who's signed up for that service. Currently in Clatsop County, they do not provide that service of sending out a Clatsop alert notification through the dispatch. And that's how some people were notified earlier in some areas, depends on what you were signed up for compared to Clatsop County. The tsunami, we started getting phone calls right around 6 a.m. and that did come through the dispatch center to the public officials, and it came through our police department. Our police department started notifying myself, and we basically started moving at that time. We started texting department heads and getting everybody organized, and we met down here at the police station and did a very quick organization of who we had with us right now, and then we sent out a few more notifications to get other people in the room. We fired up the emergency operations center here. We had a very quick briefing, and that briefing included public works, city officials, police department, and the fire department. At that time, we broke up into small groups, and they started going out clearing the beaches and notifying all the hoteliers of the event that was going to come in. And the time that it was going to come in was approximately 8:45. That's the notification that we had. The emergency operations center here in this room was up and running, and we had our communications operating, which we had some challenges with. And we started clearing the beaches. The one thing that was very evident about our operation is we had a lot of people coming to the beach, locals and visitors swarmed to the beach. And that was something that you have to be ready for and prepared for and realize that's going to happen. So our people that were in the field were doing a really good job of notifying people to stay back, stay off the beach. But there was some locations in the beach that the law enforcement could not get to. And they were using their PA to tell people to stay off that part. And that was mostly around Chapman Point. It's hard for them to get out there with their vehicles. They can't take their vehicles on that part of the beach very easily. And it's not a safe place for them to be. And so as we were managing the operation, we also started sending out a lot of notifications. Our notifications were sent out on Nixle, which is something that we have in the city that the police department has control over. And they started sending out notifications quite early. We started putting things on our Facebook page and our community notification list and on our website. We also contacted this Clatsop County, and we had communications with them, and we actually requested them to put out a Clatsop County Clatsop Alerts notification. As we were going through the operation, things seemed to be going quite well, and they were going well. But we still started having people continually kind of enter the beach area. And people were respectful if we talked to them, but if we didn't talk to them, they were just trying to get on the beaches. At that time, we had a conversation with the fire district here. Hey, what if we were able to put out an announcement over the cows and use it as a PA? And that was our plan. Our plan was to use the cow system as a PA just to tell people to stay off the beach until noon, which is when the alert was supposed to be canceled. As we went through that process, the challenge with the cow system is the fact that whenever you do something with the cow system, it automatically starts off with an alarm, and that alarm lasts for 3 minutes and you can't stop it. That was not the intention of the fire department to do that, but they couldn't bypass it. And so that's why you heard that alarm activation. They were successful in getting an announcement out, which was very helpful to explain that, but it did cause some confusion. the positives that we take out of that was the COW system is designed to be used in a situation to where it's a distant event that has a distant tsunami coming in, and it's to notify the community to evacuate the beach area. Realistically, that's why that system is here, is for this exact scenario. What we try to do is also make it work for us in the advantage of to use a PA to give people updated information. And that was a little bit of a challenge because we didn't have very good control over the alarms. And that's something that we're going to fix. And that's the benefit of it. But a lot of people that were from out of town, they weren't really paying attention to much of the people that were there helping them on the beach, but they paid attention to the alarm. I had multiple phone calls throughout the next week from people who did not have a notification ability, to where they're at home, most of them are alone, and all they have is a landline. And so they did hear the alarms. They did have a little challenges, some of them here in the announcement that we gave, but they did hear the alarms. So realistically, that's their only form of notification. And so when I got those phone calls, it even inspired me more to really realize how important this system is to have it functioning correctly. But we need to have it functioning correctly. And that's something that we're going to need to look into in the future. What we did as a city and as public safety is we had an operation. We were all on the same page together in this place. We operated an emergency operation center together. There was some chinks in our armor because we have not practiced that as a city, as with all entities. And that's why when you have these events that happen, you have to take advantage of those opportunities and play them like they're the big deal. And what we learned through this process was quite a bit. We need some communication challenges and some staff training challenges. And it also was other equipment challenges like with the cows. So we learned a huge amount of volume that's going to make us much safer in the future. We just got to take the time and the efforts to go through them and make sure that we fix those things. Another thing that we discovered throughout our process is, what do the citizens know and what do they not know? A lot of the citizens are not connected to other forms of communication outside of what they're used to, whether it's their friends on their own cell phone, maybe a Facebook page that they have linked to a couple other people, which may not be the most informative at the time, or they're relying on just neighbors or a landline. Those kind of things are challenging to get people really informed in real time. So we put out a campaign just recently last week to get everybody signed up for Nixle. Nixle is the control that we have that works on your cell phone. We also encourage people to get signed up for Clatsop alerts. That's through the county, and they have county control over that. And then also sign up for our community notification list. The community notification list, we had about 300 people last week signed up for it. Now we have over 400. And that is really, really good news that we got that many more people informed and notified. The challenge with the community notification list is it's an email server. And it takes sometimes 2 hours for people to get that email sent to them because it's a big block of emails that go out and it takes time. So we encourage people to have at least 2 forms of notification, and we encourage people to get signed up with Nixle, because that's something that we have local control over through the police department. Another thing that was challenging that we had was we didn't have a lot of coordination with our exterior EOCs, and there was only one other emergency operations center opened up in the entire county, and that was in Seaside. We had contacted them via phone, but we didn't have radio communications with them, and that's something that we need to fix in this region, so that we have that type of communications and we have that coordination between areas, so that if something happens to us or something happens to them, we can all reflex and help them. I look at that operation as a huge success because we got a lot of lessons learned out there. I just completed an after action report that I gave to the council and the senior staff and the fire department. And we've already had a couple actionable items that we've already moved forward on fixing. So I'm really excited about the direction that we head with these types of events. And I definitely am a person who wants to make sure when we have small events like this, we take advantage of them and work them as far as we can to find out how the system works. So a lot of people that have contacted me over the week, I want to thank them for their courage to reach out, and whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, their feedback, it definitely helps me make good, positive course corrections as we move down range. But we all were more connected after those phone calls. And so that was really good. That was really positive. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Rick, it's Bob. Would you explain to the council all those different truck at the Tango site? Give them an explanation, because there's several different container trucks there that they should be familiar with what's there.
So one thing that we have at that Tango site is we actually have contracts with some excavator companies that are in this area. And whenever they're doing work in the city, for the city, they can store their equipment at that site. The benefit of having them store that equipment at that site when they're doing work for the city is that if something happens, that equipment is here in our city limits. It's not at their sites, maybe 30 or 50 miles away. It's here. We have public works employees that have the ability to operate that machinery. And if those contractors are here, they will also operate it. So there's a huge benefit of having some of that equipment staged here. And that's really a benefit that Southwind provides us, because it has that geographic size of a location. At that site, we also have a DART container, the Disaster Animal Response Team. We have a Sunset Empire radio container, which is the auxiliary radio team that helps the city and the region. And then we have a few other containers for the city cash site safety services up there. Is that what you're looking for, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, they should realize it is more than just that one building where we keep our cache materials, but we have lots of other supplies in those other containers. Especially now, we have a lot of emergency equipment for animals. The DART group has really put in shelving and lots of supplies for animals that we will be dealing with during a disaster. That's all I wanted to say.
That's good. And in the future, Chief Reckon and myself are working on getting 2 sandbag locations in our area. That's that Tango site at Southwind is where we're going to put 1 sandbag location, and we're going to put another one at the Arch Cape Fire Station to serve that area. So there is benefits of even having a severe weather event that we had several weeks ago. And we needed some resources improvements there, and we have the areas to act upon those. So in the future, you'll see a sandbagging site at that location. Any other questions?
Yes.
Rick.
Hi.
Hi.
Rick, this is Rick.
Hi, Rick.
Like your name. Just as you were going through all the things that you learned and the problems that came up during the tsunami alert, one thing you mentioned was that there's certain areas of beach that are isolated, like Chapman Beach, where it's hard to get police vehicles out there, and I guess it would be hard to even know if there are people out there to be warned. Is there any possibility we could acquire and use a drone to make that surveillance and also to announce to people what's going on?
Very good, Rick. I actually have a drone in our possession in the city, and we're working on a training program to get that outfitted. And a drone works very good for that operation. Thank you for bringing that up.
I'm glad you're ahead of me on that.
Well, I may need to get a drone operator to help me, Rick.
I'm not a drone operator. I'm at all. I probably go back to the little race cars that you have the radio thing on.
Excellent.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, we did activate our CERT team and our emergency volunteers, as in put them on standby if we needed them. And in the future, that's where we can use them too, to get out there in the public when those events happen, if we have a need for that. And so very well warranted, good idea.
Tell you what, you call me up and let me come and train on the drone. I think it might be fascinating.
Sounds good. I like it.
Okay, bye.
Any other questions of Rick? How about Mark? Do you have anything you'd like to add about that day or anything else?
I think Rick pretty much hit most everything. It is interesting that, as Rick alluded to, there's been a lot of conversations about the system and talking about the upgrades that it needs and how to overcome those. And so, unfortunately, this was a very event that highlighted a lot of those deficiencies and made us really aware of where we need to upgrade and the changes that system needs.
Can you tell us what the status of the conversation between the city and the fire district is about the ownership or operation of the alarm system. Bruce, you might want to chime in on this too.
Okay.
So a brief history of the system. The system was put in by the fire district in the mid-90s. I don't have the exact date, before my time. And the fire district's in the position that we're the only fire district that I come up with a nation that's trying to manage a siren system. That is not something that's typically a fire district does. That is something that a city and a county does. And with that being said, the system has not been upgraded, maintained with the proper funding that it needs. And so the conversation started with the city to start talking about how the system can better be managed and funded. And right now, that's all it is a conversation. To dispel any rumor, the fire district has not stopped testing it, working on it. We still have it. It's still ours. And we're still going to continue. Right now, it's just a conversation with the city about the transition. The board has made the statement that they want out of the cows business. They need to start transitioning this out of the district hands into a city, county, but it doesn't mean the district still won't support it. Just trying to get the management out of the district to someone that's better able suited to manage it, the city or the county. The county hasn't really been interested in taking it on. And so far the conversation's been with the city.
So I think there's been some question as to whether or not our beloved cow alert will be.
So the cow is a testing.
Right.
I want to make that very clear. There was a lot of comments on Facebook that I kept going in and trying to dispel those rumors on many platforms of Facebook. The cow is not the siren. The cow was a testing. It's community warning system. And so it got the acronym COW, and the guy that designed it for the fire district, he made that. It was a kind of a joke, I guess, but it was a cool, iconic testing. So when you hear the cows mooing, that is all it is a test that we make sure that the speakers are working, that the radio reception goes out to make the speakers work. That's what the cow is. And we're still doing that the first Wednesday of every month.
Good. I guess that'll assure some people. Bruce, would you like to add anything to the discussion about the alarm system?
Yes. Prior to the recent tsunami warnings, the city did have an agenda item. Mark was there for that. And that was about, what can we do? Do we want to get more involved with it? Whatever. There was a lot of support in that direction from what I could perceive. And also there's a report that has been commissioned to take a look at the system.
Yeah.
Because, they have trouble finding parts for it, that sort of thing now. So somebody's going to come back and say, if you want an operational system, this is what it'll cost you to make that happen. We expect to get that report back in February. So late February, early March, probably. So when that happens, council is asked to get brought back before them, and then we'll be in a position to continue the discussion.
Rick and I'll be meeting with the contractor, hopefully this week or next week, that's coming out, that's very familiar with the system, and to give us an update of what our system is capable of and what it'll take to get it to where we want it to go.
And when both Rick and Mark were talking, at some point, the fire department, like he said, had taken over the system or originated the system. Usually this is more of a county function. The county has said, we don't want anything to do with it. And so if it's going to continue, it'll be as a result of agreement between the city and the fire district. There are two other operational systems, I think. Is that right, Gearhart and Seaside?
Correct.
And they are both acting independently.
All right, does anybody have any other questions about this?
Robin, did you have a question to me? You kind of looked over when I finished my.
No, I was just thinking to myself about what Seaside did, which is in the Cove area. They wouldn't let anybody go to their houses or go up the hill or to the Cove. They have police there to stop them.
Mhm.
And I know that a lot of people left their rentals because they were pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, and had we, had the anticipated size of the waves been larger, we would have been in that mode also, which is really why we think it's important that we have this intermediate system to be able to make those kind of announcements and tell folks in certain sections. So this was a relatively simple operation because at 1 to 3 feet, and I think it was close to a high tide at that point. It was kind of similar to what we have with the a king tide. But had it been something like what was in 64, there was a lot of damage done by the tsunami coming in.
Well, I'm glad people had the opportunity, like Rick said, to practice a little bit. And I know we'll get better. And I do think it's a valuable system.
Yeah, no, thank you, Robin, for that. And it really is because, especially when we just did the siren, there was a huge gap of what does that mean? And trying to get the audio out, there were some problems. In some areas, it was you could hear it. In some areas, you couldn't. So those are all things that we have to take care of because we want to alert people that something's going on and be clear. This is what you need to do now, and not just have alarm.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anybody else have any other questions?
This is Steve. I've got a question. How many CERT volunteers do we have? And does their training include information that they could disseminate information throughout the community at different stations for, different areas to stay out of, things like that in case of emergencies?
We have approximately 44 CERT members, and about probably 25 of them are very active. And we always have a plan for deploying those CERT members. They've got training in that type of activity to deploy and give information. It really depends on time. In that situation that we had with the tsunami, we had law enforcement, public works, and we had fire department out there. And at that time, we didn't really need any more people out there notified. And we sure did not want to put any of the CERT members in harm's way to go out like on Chapman Point on the beach. But it is part of the program to use the CERT members to do things like that, especially if it's a planned event and we know it's going to happen. An example of that is when they do some of the stuff on the beach when it comes to Sandcastle, they use volunteers, and most of them are CERT volunteers, to do some of the parking structure and parking assistance. And a lot of those people, they work with the Sandcastle, and they're also CERT members, and they have vests out there, and they do that type of activities. So we do plan on using our CERT members in that fashion. We did not utilize them on Saturday. We did put them on alert, but we didn't utilize them in geographic locations.
Thank you.
If you want to be a CERT member, let us know. Just contact email Chief Schimmerhorn, and he keeps a list of all the CERT members that want to join, and then we start planning next training.
Okay, I am CERT certified.
Oh, perfect.
But that was maybe 8 years ago or something. So I'd probably have to have some more training, but thank you. I'll give that some thought.
You bet. Where did you get your CERT training done initially?
Salt Lake City through the Salt Lake Fire Department.
Okay. All right. I like that. That's good. Shoot me an email. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later.
Okay. Thanks.
That's what we like to do here, make connections. All right. Anybody else have any questions about this?
I had a question. Why isn't the whole state of Oregon coastline doing the same thing? Like the same notification systems and be uniform about it?
Great question.
That's a great question. And that actually comes from the state level. One thing that's interesting about a lot of the risk factors that we are trying to tackle in this community, a lot of other communities up and down the coast do not put as much effort into emergency preparedness as we are doing. And you don't have tsunami warnings up and down the coast at all. So it's not a state or county sponsored program. There's only a few tsunami sirens on the Oregon coasts in only a few selected counties. And so the state doesn't look at it as a state-run program or the need for it. They use these notification systems that are electronic driven, like Everbridge or those other systems. They use those as regional systems to notify people. But as we see here, even today locally, that's not enough. And that's a big challenge at the state of them trying to figure out what works for the whole state. And they're growing there, but they're way behind the power curve.
Who's the person in charge of that?
That would be the emergency management, Phillips, up at Office of Emergency Management in the state at Salem.
Andrew Phelps.
Andrew Phelps, thank you.
Phelps.
I want to ask Trevor if the Public Works Department was involved in that at all, and if they had any problems that day. Hello, Trevor. Hello, Trevor.
I can answer that for you if
Okay.
he doesn't chime in.
If Trevor isn't,
He's coming. He's coming right now.
he's coming. We're gonna have an in-person response.
Yay, Trevor.
Yeah, Public Works was involved with tsunami then on.
Can everybody hear him?
Yes.
Trevor, why don't you come up?
Yeah.
Okay, he's gonna come up closer to a microphone.
Yeah, Public Works was involved. I was out, I was given the task to go around to as many beach accesses as I could to inform the residents and tourists what was going on and stay off the beach. And I just went as fast as I could and got exposed to as many beach accesses as I possibly could during the event and after the event itself.
Where Public Works would have been critical is immediately after the event. There's going to be road damage, there's going to be debris, all kinds of things. We want to make sure that the infrastructure can continue on, make sure you have water. So the initial part of that, again, was kind of like Trevor, another hand on deck to be able to go ahead and provide that kind of notice. But Public Works is critical in everything that happens after an event.
One thing I'd like to add to that comment for Public Works is a lot of people would like to see the Public Works put up signs in those types of events. When you have a transient event that's going to last 2.5, maybe 3 hours max, it's very, very difficult for them to put up signage because it takes a lot of time for one individual to do that. And it's better to keep them kind of moving fast, informing people, and then move to the next stop and even come back and do that again. But to try to put up signs, it's really kind of counterproductive. So when people ask for those signs, all we would ask you is, how long is this going to last, and where do we better utilize our Public Works members? And sometimes the best thing to do is just get them out there in the public and talk to people.
And also, I mean, we can't have signs for every situation.
Correct.
I have a question about Public Works. So that water pipe that's coming down that needs to be replaced from the water tanks up there in a mild seismic event, when are those going to be replaced so that we make sure that we have drinking water if there's an earthquake? Because it's my understanding that a minor earthquake will take the pipe out, which is, I think it's a pipe that has asbestos and cement, and it could crack. And then the water tank could also go at any time, according to what I researched.
Right, and the water tank, we have, let me see, we're moving forward with grants and loans to move forward to replace the existing water tank. The water tank was installed before there were any seismic requirements. And there's like a system that can get water. A lot of things have to happen before water comes to the city. So first is that you start up at the springs where the water comes in, And then you come down pretty far down through the Cola Preserve. But in coming down through that, the pipe is asbestos concrete and it's very rigid. And so subject to fail with, the earth starts shaking. And so that's one place that I'm sorry. All of the pieces that we're going to talk about, which is like 3 million to come down. Is it 3 million?
Correct.
3 million to come down and then go back to the tank to get treated and stored and then go down. If it fails any place in there, there is no water. No water will reach the city if anything happens in any part of those components. And so one of the first things that we're doing is replacing all those components. So again, from the springs down, then it goes through a treatment, then it goes up to the tank and then goes out. We're trying to bring it down to a point around the RV park. And that's the point that we are trying to say, we will have water there. We'll do everything we can to have water there. But so that's what we're trying to accomplish with that project. Karen and I have a call with Business Oregon on February 4th. We've already had one conversation. They were very up on the project that we were talking about doing. We were talking to, so we're going to be talking to them again about that. And another thing we want to accomplish is supply lines running along 101. Because right now, especially for the north end, the water runs like through neighborhoods and then under the creek. And that's how the water gets to the north end. What we want to do is run a supply line out along 101 and have it go straight in. And again, have it with the, I think it's HDMI pipe. It's a more flexible pipe for seismic events, that sort of thing. So we want to improve our ability to get water to the north end and then down to the south tank. But the first step in all of that is to make sure we can get water down to the city. So those are projects that we're actively involved with.
Can I interrupt for a minute? Jenny, could you mute your
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. All right, go ahead, Deb.
It's my understanding there's going to be some infrastructure money coming your way from, the federal, right? So can any of that be used for that?
Yeah, and we continue to go after every grant that we can get. We did get some federal money for emergency management activities, and Rick is making good use of those funds. Again, I keep talking about the program. We've got, we participate in several programs where we actually have 50% up to $500,000 principal forgiveness. And so we just did a project to put in the smart meters. And that was a $600,000 project. And we have, let me see, 1%, we have to pay back $300,000. So we had $300,000 forgiven in principal. And then the loans that we've been working with so far have been around 1% for 30 years.
So just as long as people know that they better store some water, I think that's kind of,
yeah.
I want everybody to know, hey, you better have some water, because if one of these goes out, and that was the main issue for the food tax that was like freaking me out. So, and I know the Cannon Beach Gazette's going to be listening to this meeting. So, hey, hey guys, the water is important. So if there's an earthquake tomorrow, you may not have water. So just as long as everybody knows that, and the water tank and the water and the pipe. So just an announcement.
Okay, so I speak while Karen has just walked in and Trevor is here. While they're here, Jan had a question about the Whale Park and what is happening there and the trees as well.
I think Trevor's got the answer.
Yeah, so with Whale Park, we're replacing like for like the stairs that got destroyed during our last water main break. We're going to be replacing those just like they were, same amount of tread, same color. The sidewalks got damaged. We're going to be doing some sidewalk replacement, and then the landing at the actual well park itself, that first rung, we got to replace that also. No trees will be impacted. We're not digging out any more ground to add more concrete. It's going to be like for like what was there.
So you said no trees impacted.
No,
Okay, cool.
And
That's what I,
it's like for like. It's because
and the roots of the trees have been protected?
anything that got exposed during the water main break is what's going to be exposed during the concrete rehab. And I didn't see any roots get damaged during the water main break project.
So Chapman Point, we were down there this morning. What's going on?
What do you mean, what's going on?
The beach is dug up, right?
Can I interrupt that for just a second? I want to ask Jan if she has any more questions about Whale Park.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, I just want to say thank you for thinking about the trees.
Of course.
All right, Chapman Point, the big project down there. Can you explain what's going on there?
That's a storm drain improvement that we got to council.
Karen, can you come up?
Yeah.
Please. We got a whole meeting going.
Storm drain improvement that we talked to council about that OPRD was wanting us to do. We've got the funding from the budget committee and council to be able to do that project, and that was put out to bid. It was awarded, and that's what they're in the middle of doing. We're estimating about 3 weeks to may be able to improve that with a nice stretch of weather we're getting. But when that's all done, we'll have you probably won't see anything burp out of that pipe onto the beach, because everything they're doing is creating kind of a filter system in the ground itself. And that's to protect anything that does go out. But it's quite an extensive project, as you can see.
it sure is.
Yeah, I was amazed when I went past there the other day. Jeez.
It's closed all the way, right?
It is closed while they're doing that project, yes. Just because of the nature of the equipment they have out there, and they just don't want to risk anybody's safety.
Got it.
And that's a storm drain that is,
Yes.
the outflow is the storm drain.
Everything, all the runoff that actually goes through that pipe out to the beach.
Okay.
I did want to mention, I was listening to Bruce on the way back from the dentist. He forgot to mention that we got our $586,000 for our 3 seismic valves on for each of the tanks. So that loan is done. That paperwork is in our hands, and we can start doing our first drawdown. So we're getting the RFP ready to put that out to bid so that we can get that done. And I think Bruce mentioned February 4th, we go in front of the board for the second time with Business Oregon to talk about the line replacement. That's a $3.2 million loan, and that will move that loan to the next process towards approval.
And so let's go back to the $500,000.
86.
Tell us what the benefits of that project
So
are.
right now, if we have even a small seismic event, our tanks are known that they're not gonna function. They could fail. That means they could fail and all the water could drain out. There's a number of things that could happen. We just don't know. And it depends on the magnitude of the tremor that we would get. By putting the valves on, these valves sense any movement of that tank, and it automatically closes it so that the water doesn't drain. So taking you back to the north end where we had that water main break, not only in Well Park, but remember up towards Chapman Point off of Oak Court, that drained that tank on the north side. And so in an event like that, the tank would not drain. But in fire situations, we could release those valves, and it's not impacting any firefighting capability. So you can manually turn and on and off those valves, but it's to protect the water that's in the tank so we don't lose it.
Great, great. And do you have a timeline on that?
I gotta put it out to bid.
Got to put it out to bid. Okay, so that's where we are right
Couldn't
now.
happen fast enough for me. I would say, I'm hoping within this next 6 months, we can do that. I pushed my team pretty hard this year.
Yeah.
we realized our max. And so I have to be realistic with everything else we have going on.
Okay.
I'd like to see that happen and be done within 6 months if we can.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Things are moving along quite quickly.
The team's doing an outstanding job. They are.
Good,
They're
yeah.
kicking it this year.
Great.
Not ready to
Excellent.
kick me too, but we're getting it done.
Sign of a good leader. All right. Thank you, Karen, very much. I appreciate that.
You know, I'd really like to see more communication about what's being done, because they should be tooting their horn more for all they're doing, and maybe people don't know about it. And they should really be saying, hey, this is what we're doing and we're making it happen. And so that people know, so there's no negative. I want to stop this negative stuff about the city. So like, if they know that you guys are doing all this stuff, maybe that'd be really helpful. Is there a way to have an announcement about it?
I will try to be more active, but I came up through Public Works, and there's a funny philosophy, and that's that if they stay invisible, that means they're doing their job. They usually don't get noticed until something bad happens. And so they just try to stay under the radar, but I will do more on the promotion side because they're not good at that themselves.
I'll help you. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
They
Thank
need their horn tooted. Okay. I want to,
Yeah.
This is what they're doing, and we need water, and we're going to do this, and you know, all of that's really helpful.
Yeah.
I don't see Rex and Diane on anymore, but they were going to compliment the city on, I think on that line. I'm not sure, but they were complimenting the city. So I wish they were still on so that we could get that compliment.
Yeah.
But I'll have to talk to them about that.
Well, you guys need more love.
If you know, when we're talking about these lines and things, one of the reasons that we want to push that so hard is that there's gonna be a lot of bad things, potentially happen with a seismic event, but people cannot live without drinking water for more than 3 days.
Yep.
So our goal is to have a system that we can have even if it's just water to one location, you can fill your glass. But that is why we're putting so much emphasis on this.
Okay, so we only have about 5 more minutes and we have a couple of questions that we haven't reached yet. And that is, the first one is an update on the food tax.
Yes, I assume that question is about the court case. So the people that have filed the action, there were certain things that had to happen within a certain amount of time. They took the first step, and then within like 2 days, they had to file with the county, because the county was the plaintiff. And then within 3 days, they had to do something, in a local newspaper. Those steps didn't happen. And so the county is taking the position, I'm sorry, let me step back for a second. The county not the plaintiff, the county is the defendant in this. The city is not named because at this point, the only challenge that can be made is against the person that ran the election. They're past the point where they can say the city did something wrong. So that action is with the county. At a meeting we had, I think it was the 19th, the city attorney asked council in advance that if the plaintiff completed a couple of those steps so that the case became would be more sure to proceed, the attorney is the permission to intervene, which means we can help or be on the side or be at the table with the county. So to my knowledge, there's been no action taken by the plaintiffs to go ahead and resolve the other issue. And I think the county has taken a step to say that after 30 days, the court should dismiss the case.
Yeah, the county has a motion to dismiss, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So how long is that going to be now?
I think it was December 15th.
I think they have until January 31st, don't they?
Was it? Okay. But there was a time frame. I thought it was something that occurred and somebody filed, like, I don't all the dates, but I think that Nancy's right. It's probably the end of December.
January.
January.
I'm sorry, January, thank you.
Because they were served later in the mid-month they were served, actually served.
But
That was just a week
didn't
ago.
meet their deadline. They didn't meet their service deadline.
Oh,
And they didn't meet the deadline to post a notice in the paper. And I don't think they even have posted a notice yet. So,
Yeah, to our knowledge, they've not, well, they did finally serve the county.
yeah.
so when can we officially say it really passed?
I would not do it until around the 1st of February. If there's, we have to get that motion to dismiss approved by the court.
Okay, well, you toot that horn too, okay, when that comes up.
Yeah, and if there is the possibility, well, it's less of a possibility now, but there is a possibility that we might end up in court over it.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
But not much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bruce is Greg, if that does occur, if it goes to court, the implementation date of, I think it was July 1st of 2022.
Right.
Does that get paused? Does that get redefined?
It depends on what happens, Greg. If it's, they will try to have this case accelerated. So it shouldn't go too long. And the city is moving forward with our ability to go ahead and implement the tax. We already have software that we're using for the tourism lodging tax. So there's not a lot of work that has to be done from finance. We are going through a process right now to hire a consultant that'll work with each business to go through the point of sales tax system to be able to collect and record the tax. So we have time, or we're pretty far along. But depending on how long, if a case does go, I wouldn't say we're going to automatically extend it, but it may result in being extended.
All right. Any more questions about the food tax? Rick has his hand up. And
Yes. Hi. I just wanted to mention, as I did at the outset, that I hope someone will mention to the county attorney the issue of standing. I'm sure it probably has occurred to them, but usually when you sue the government, you have to show a particular harm to you as opposed to other people. And I don't know that the plaintiffs in this case have any ability to show a particular harm. They would argue, of course, that they run a restaurant and that's a particular harm, but this is a pass-through tax. So it really raises the merits of the case at an early point, which is saying, no, you're not going to be harmed by this. And I think that could, if they were the grounds that we have that they didn't follow the procedures, that's great. If that throws the case out, that's great. But otherwise, I think standing would be a real issue. I don't think they're going to be harmed more than anyone else unless they go to dinner. It's just like anybody else that goes to dinner, they're going to have to pay the tax.
Yeah.
But that's not special.
And we have not intervened yet. And so the county is not sharing a lot of their strategy, but I'm sure they'll be looking into that.
Well, we don't have to ask them to share strategy, but we could always mention it to them.
Yeah.
Just takes a phone call.
Rick, why don't you call their attorneys?
Now that I know who to call, okay, sure.
I know who they are, so you can call
I'll
me.
talk to you, Deb. Thanks. That's appreciated.
All right. Our attorney is talking to their attorney.
Okay. Give them a push. They need a push.
Deb, I'll give you a call.
Okay.
We'll figure that out. Okay.
all right. And I think we had one more question, and we're 5 minutes past, but
Can we go longer?
Not too much longer. Actually, I have an appointment at 11:30, so. We do have one more question about lot sizes. I'm not going to get into that huge controversy at the moment, but Bruce, can you tell us what the status of that is?
Yes. The discussion about lot size will be made part of the next phase of the code audit process. And the code audit is being handled by the city commission, the planning commission, and the design review board. And they want to do that in joint meetings. And so the next meeting will be end of February, early March. And that's when that discussion will pick up again.
Okay. All right. Nancy, did that answer your question? Oh, Nancy. Okay. Apparently it did. All right.
Still there.
Okay. Anybody, just a minute or so, anybody want to add anything to our discussion today?
This is Steve Wade. I'd like to add a thanks to Karen and her crew for getting hold of a lot of these funds that are available to help the city, all of its residents and the infrastructure. I think her and her team are just doing a marvelous job, and I just like to comment on that.
Thank you. And I second that.
Yeah, I second it too. I mean, she's doing a lot and she doesn't really express it. So I would like to see more of that so there's no more criticism of her. I'm really tired of that. So that needs to be moved on. I'm tired of it. So that's just not okay anymore.
Hey,
And
Rick?
I would like to thank whoever is responsible for the sun being out today and this week. Let's all get out and enjoy it.
Well, you can thank your city council for that. How's that?
Very good. Thank you. Brilliant job.
And thank you for these meetings. These meetings are really valuable. I think they're very valuable. Thank you for your time.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. We wouldn't have these meetings if people didn't join us. So we really appreciate the participation. Robin, do you have anything you want to add?
I think I want to thank Carmen Swigert because she originally had these meetings years ago. And so when I ran for office, this is one of the things I wanted to continue because I feel it's so valuable to have everyone hear what's really happening. So thank you.
It'd be great if we could do it in the park in the summer or something. Maybe. I don't know.
All right. Well, I think we will probably end that today. And thank you again for participating. And please gather your questions for next month. Remember, it's the fourth Monday next month. So we will see you then. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.